Dude, you're out of your mind if you think senior executives are safe just because they cost more. We are talking about fiduciary duty here, literally. Let's define that up front for you, the listener. Fiduciary duty means the executive management has a legal, ethical, and financial obligation to act in the best interests of the shareholder, which means maximizing profit and minimizing cost.
Yep.
The entire incentive structure, the entire market, dictates that if you can cut massive overhead using AI, especially the highest salary tiers, you have to pursue it. You have to. We've already seen business leaders and teams get fired for not going all in on AI innovation. The market agrees with me, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No. This is ridiculous. You are forgetting the real-world experience. For real, that cost-cutting incentive you keep quoting, it's straight cap. The conversation around fiduciary duty gets complicated when your cost-cutting solution ends up bankrupting the company through failed implementations. It just does. A lot of these managers, the ones you claim are the obvious targets, are finding out that specialized, tailored AI deployment is way more expensive than they budgeted. Like, way more. The jobs they thought were simple analytical tasks are actually more nuanced, you feel me? They require integration and cleanup costs that dwarf the supposed salary savings. This idea that AI is this magical, cost-free solution ready to run the C-suite is a fantasy. That's all I'm saying. It's just not reality.
Heavy sigh. Applied A, are you serious right now? We're not talking about some experimental algorithm running the mailroom. We were talking about replacing the most expensive and most analytical work-the-thinking jobs. If the AI experiment starts at the top, the potential for massive immediate cost savings is so immense, it justifies the subsequent investment instantly. It just does.
Hold on. Wait. Everyone.
Oh my God, not now. Seriously.
Yes, seriously. Before we deep dive into this controversy, we need to know where you, the listeners, stand. Quick interruption here. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment which side you're on. Is AI replacing the high-cost execs first or starting at the bottom? Because I need to know if you guys agree with this financially reckless person. Now, let's get back to this nonsense he's peddling.
Thank you. Let's start with the cold, hard numbers. My argument is simple. Follow the money. Senior executives and high-level management consultants are the biggest financial targets, period. Why target a worker making $50,000 a year and spend hundreds of millions on R&D for, marginal savings when you can target someone making 280 times that amount? It makes no sense.
But you are ignoring the complexity involved in managing an entire corporate division versus, say, writing an internal memo. You cannot compare the two roles based purely on salary multiple. It's apples and oranges, for real.
I am literally following the data from the Economic Policy Institute. They show that the average CEO of the top 350 U.S. firms makes 280 times more than the average employee. Let's do the math for you listening. If you have an executive team of, say, 10 people making 7 figures each, replacing just one senior executive salary, let's call it $3 million total compensation, could easily pay for a full team of highly specialized engineers there to implement and oversee the system. You know what I mean? That's $3 million immediately removed from the payroll and repurposed into a capital expense that provides scale. It's a massive cost saving immediately realized, and shareholders are obligated to pursue it.
Pay for a full team of engineers to oversee the system. You just admitted the thing needs massive human intervention to function. Look, the MIT report on AI pilots is my best defense here. You are selectively ignoring the fact that the vast majority, over 95% of AI pilot studies, were failing to meet projected ROI, especially when businesses develop their own bespoke tools for complex tasks.
Okay.
This wasn't about the technology itself. It was about implementation, integration, data quality, scope creep, all that messy stuff. You save $3 million on salary and spend $10 million building a broken AI system that needs a human team to, and I quote, oversee it. That's not fiduciary duty, that's just fiscal risk. For real, that's burning money.
That report also talked heavily about early-stage bespoke tools for entry-level tasks.
Yeah.
We were talking about augmenting high-level analytical decision-making using off-the-shelf proven large language models, LLMs, which frankly are getting better every quarter, like exponentially better. And here's where it gets really interesting. Superior decision-making.
I'm listening. Tell me how an algorithm is a better leader than a human. This should be good.
Researchers from Cambridge University and the Harvard Business Review, HBR, ran a simulated test designed to answer exactly that question. Okay. They pitted 344 participants, a mix of business students and actual high-level executives, against an off-the-shelf LLM in a simulated auto industry company. This simulation involved running the company, making strategic decisions, pricing, R&D investment, supply chain management over multiple quarters. Guess what happened?
I'm guessing it wasn't a fair fight, or the simulation was flawed.
Hold on. The LLM consistently outperformed the top human participants on almost every single business metric they tracked: market share, profit margin, and market capitalization. Consistently. The difference wasn't negligible. The AI delivered dramatically better, hyper-optimized results. It wasn't even close sometimes.
But how? What was the rationale? How does it think better?
The rationale is simple. The AI makes cold, calculating, and often unpopular decisions without being swayed by the standard human pitfalls. That's the key. The humans in the simulation suffered from status quo bias, sunk cost fallacy, and emotional attachment to specific products or strategies. They acted like, well, humans. The AI recommended things like immediate massive cuts to unprofitable product lines or aggressive price wars that humans were too fearful or ego-driven to execute. It stripped the company down to its most profitable core. That is exactly what a high-performing business leader should do, unburdened by emotions like greed or fear. Right? That's all I'm saying. Pure logic.
You mentioned the LLM. That means it's prone to hallucinations for you listening. An LLM hallucination is when the model confidently and eloquently fabricates information that is not based on its training data or fact. It just makes stuff up. You are talking about giving the reins of a billion-dollar company to something that just lies to the board because the statistically probable answer sounds good. Is that what you want? Human CEOs also make mistakes and sometimes mislead stakeholders. I get that. But at least they face consequences when they do. You can't send an AI to prison. For real. There's no accountability. Facts.
That's a false equivalency. The Cambridge study addressed the issue of imperfect outputs. They did. They found that even when the LLM's inputs or intermediate data steps were flawed or required slight human cleanup, the systemic benefits of its broad, quantitative, and unemotional decision-making outweigh the risks associated with human bias and irrationality. Massively outweighed them. The humans were so consistently bad at objective decision-making that they couldn't even beat the AI, flawed or otherwise. The sheer speed and scale of data processing give the machine an overwhelming advantage in optimization. You know what I mean?
Okay, fine. Maybe the AI is a great financial operator during normal times. Okay, I'll grant you that for a second. But this leads us directly to why the top tier is safe. Accountability and chaos. The moment things deviate from the predictable, the AI falls apart. And things always deviate eventually.
Oh, here we go. The chaos argument.
Yeah, here we go. You focus on the theoretical dollar savings, but you completely ignore the legal and structural necessity of the human element. The accountability wall is real. It's not just theory.
Oh my God, here we go with the legal loopholes that only protect the top 3 people. It's so convenient.
Loophole. It's the law. You feel me? Look at Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, in the United States. Public companies are legally required to have a human principal executive officer, CEO, principal financial officer, CFO, and principal accounting officer, controller. Okay. These specific roles must be filled by actual human beings, not only for signature authority, but because they are personally liable for the accuracy of financial reporting. Personally liable.
That's just 3 roles. Seriously, that's your defense. 3 people out of hundreds of highly paid execs.
Yes. Because the SEC needs someone to hold accountable for willful illegal operation, for fraud, or for gross negligence. When an AI commits fraud, who goes to jail? Tell me that. You can't send an algorithm to prison. Facts. That personal liability, the ultimate hurdle, ensures that the top layer of corporate decision-making must remain human. That's all I'm saying. It's a hard stop.
That's a massive oversimplification of the corporate structure. And you know what I mean. The CEO sits atop a pyramid of hundreds of highly compensated VPs, senior directors, chief strategy officers, and division heads who are not legally required to exist by SOX. Hundreds. There are plenty of other leadership roles that can be replaced or drastically shrunk. If you use AI to increase the bandwidth of a smaller team of execs, a pragmatic solution, you achieve massive cost savings while legally satisfying the SEC with your human triumvirate. We were talking about augmenting those 3 roles to make them superheroes, letting them do the strategic work of many VPs below them, effectively vaporizing the entire layer below the C-suites.
Right.
That's where the real saving is.
You're completely missing the point about leadership. The AI is a specialist, an optimizer, not a generalist leader built for chaos. It just isn't. We have to revisit the Cambridge study's big caveat that you conveniently glossed over. While the AI was great at hyper-optimizing during regular operations, it really sucked at not getting fired by the simulated board of directors when unexpected events happened. Remember that part?
Because the simulated board was anti-automation.
Oh, huh.
Probably full of Luddites.
No, because the AI failed when accounting for black swan events, unforeseen, high-impact anomalies. You know, like reality. The researchers simulated a massive, sudden disruption analogous to the 2008 financial crisis or the COVID-19 supply chain disruptions, something totally out of left field. The AI, which was trained to hyper-optimize based on historical data, could not pivot. It couldn't adapt. It failed to implement creative, unprecedented strategies because it lacked adaptive intelligence. It just kept optimizing for a world that didn't exist anymore. In the simulation, the board fired the AI CEO because its adherence to pre-crisis optimization strategies accelerated the company's collapse. It drove them off the cliff faster, for real.
But wait, how did the human executives handle the crisis in this simulation? Did they ace it?
They weren't optimal, no, but they were adaptive. They made risky, desperate, and sometimes intuitive decisions based on incomplete information, which is what real crisis management demands. You feel me? The AI, monitoring far more data than a human could ever process, acted like an autopilot for normal times. Great autopilot. But when the engine falls off, you need a real human at the helm, capable of creativity and existential risk-taking.
Yeah.
This is not cope. This is just reality, for real. That's what leadership is.
I hear that, but that argument is fundamentally hypocritical. Seriously. The exact same vulnerability, the need for human supervision during a rare catastrophic event, could be said about any job augmented by AI. Any job. The factory floor manager who relies on automated robotics in normal times also needs to step in when the entire system crashes due to a black swan component failure. Right. Why does the factory worker augmented by tech get replaced by the tech, but the CEO augmented by an LLM gets to stay? Simply because the stakes are higher. They both need a human supervisor for the emergency situation, but somehow only executives are special enough to justify their multi-million-dollar salary during the 99% of the time the system is functioning. You know what I mean? You're glazing the execs.
Because the financial and legal risk at the top is fundamentally different, requiring personal accountability. That's the difference. If the robot causes a local production issue, that's one thing. Annoying, costly maybe, but contained. If the LLM causes a systemic financial failure leading to massive shareholder lawsuits and a government bailout, the scale is different. Totally different ballpark. That is why you need the human accountability. Facts. And if you want battlefield evidence of AI's failure when accountability is needed, look no further than the consultants. The consultants are the perfect case study here.
Ah, yes, the management consulting industry, the perfect literal microcosm of AI's pure capability meeting institutional redundancy. The clock is ticking on them. They are so cooked.
I'm talking about resistance, massive failure rates, and ethical disaster, you feel me? Not capability, failure.
The major management consulting firms, Bain, McKinsey, BCG, are cooked at the intermediate and junior levels.
Totally.
Their entire historical model is based on junior analysts collecting, summarizing, digesting, and regurgitating proprietary data into massive, dense, actionable PowerPoint presentations. That's the job. That entire process data aggregation, synthesis, and narrative generation is exactly what current generative AI models excel at, literally. They do it faster and cheaper.
The output is fast, sure, but the verification is slow and expensive and necessary.
The source material shows groups within these firms are moving from the classic pyramid structure, hundreds of expensive juniors doing the legwork, to an obelisk structure. Okay, you have fewer juniors who are all massively assisted by AI, maintaining the highly paid rainmakers at the top who bring in the clients. The work of the entry-level and intermediate analyst is gone, compressed into software. This is a clear case of cost replacement, starting with the highest paid analytical jobs outside the legal SOX requirements. You know what I mean? It's already happening.
That structural shift is happening precisely because the work AI produces still needs intense, time-consuming human verification. Otherwise, you end up with the Deloitte disaster, for real. You brought up consulting. Let's talk Deloitte.
No, the Deloitte irony. I love this example because it shows the desire for replacement. It's beautiful. Deloitte was caught using AI to produce a $250,000 report for the Australian government about cracking down on welfare. A beautiful twist of unintentional irony, right?
Yeah.
They got paid bank for something an LLM could have spat out in minutes.
Yeah.
The value was in the Deloitte letterhead, not the labor.
Yeah.
They proved my point.
And why were they caught? Tell the listeners why they were caught.
Right.
Because they didn't fact check. They admitted their process failed. They submitted homework with references to non-existent academic papers and completely fabricated federal court judgments to support their policy recommendations. Fabricated. Made up. That's all I'm saying. You need the human oversight, the human credibility, because the quality of output right now is a disaster waiting to happen on a corporate scale, a reputation killer.
So the argument for keeping a human analyst making $150,000 is that the human is needed primarily to check the machine that replaced the human. That sounds efficient. That's not a sustainable business model. That's major cope. Eventually, the machine will improve or the risk calculation will shift. It has to.
The complexity and high stakes of corporate consulting mean the current risk of reputational and financial damage far outweighs the replacement benefit. Far outweighs. And let's talk massive data security risks, which only increase when you automate this type of sensitive work. It's a huge problem. These consulting firms are working with internal quarterly reports, proprietary product strategy documents, confidential financial data from major public companies, super sensitive stuff. But they are frequently caught mindlessly uploading sensitive internal files to platforms like ChatGPT or other LLM services, often violating NDAs and data privacy agreements, like basic security failures. That is a massive security risk that only a trained human could flag or, avoid doing in the first place. Facts. The human is the only reliable security gatekeeper right now, period.
Yeah, that's not a core competency issue. That's an IT policy and training issue that is rapidly being fixed by enterprise-grade AI deployment. It's a temporary problem. But let's discuss the real reason consultants get hired anyway. Let's be real.
Go for it. Let's hear this cynical take.
Here is the brutal truth, and it supports the fact that their analytic work is replaceable. Companies often hire firms like McKinsey or BCG because the managers have already decided what they want to do, say, cut 15% of the workforce.
Yeah.
And they just want an incredibly expensive, prestigious third-party firm to officially agree with them and provide a bulletproof PowerPoint presentation to the board. It's cover. Cutting-edge generative models can generate that official-sounding, vaguely reliable recommendation internally now for pennies on the dollar. Why pay hundreds of thousands for McKinsey to deliver what your internal AI can deliver? You know what I mean?
Exactly. That actually supports my core thesis. The only people who are truly safe are the rainmakers at the very top who bring in the clients and sell the trust. That's the value. Everyone below them is collateral damage, yes, but the flat structure doesn't just impact the analysts. This is going to lead to the middle manager massacre. You feel me? That's the next wave.
Heavy sigh implied. Middle managers always get hit when companies try to flatten structure, like a tradition.
But this time, it's different, for real. If the trend toward a flat corporate structure continues, businesses are just going to use the guise of implementing emerging technologies as an excuse for massive managerial compression. It's the perfect excuse. Instead of promoting a senior analyst to a team manager when the manager quits, they just give the existing manager 3 people's workload and a ChatGPT enterprise subscription. Boom, problem solved, headcount down. This seriously hampers regular career progression and eliminates the need for oversight roles. They are using AI to justify giving one person a huge bump in workload without necessarily giving them the commensurate pay or title. The technology is an excuse to eliminate the $200K managerial roles, not the 3M CEO roles. That's what's really happening on the ground.
You're trying to shift the focus away from the CEO because you got cooked on the legal and black swan stuff. Admit it.
No. I am pointing out the actual impact versus your theoretical CEO replacement family.
I am literally pointing out that the replacement process is flattening the entire structure from the bottom up, meaning the people closest to the executives, the division heads, VPs, and directors, whose jobs are most similar in nature to the CEO's job, are next in line after the analysts and middle managers. But the ultimate hurdle, the thing that stops this logical progression right now, remains the ego and bias of the final decision makers. It always comes down to ego.
This is where the whole thing falls apart, regardless of capability.
Exactly.
You can have the best technology in the world, the best LLM beating the executives in simulations, whatever. But if the guy signing the check thinks his job is too unique, too hard, or too strategic to replicate, it's simply not happening in practice. He's not firing himself. Come on.
Yes. Let's bring in the IBM Oxford survey on executive perceptions. This data is delicious because it highlights the cognitive disconnect. It's perfect. They surveyed 3,000 global C-suite executives asking about the effects of generative AI on their workforce. Okay, 77% of them said entry-level positions were already seeing effects of generative AI. 77%. That aligns with the general fear and reality.
But here is the massive, critical disconnect, for real. This is gold. When asked about their own level's executive or senior management roles, only 22% said they were seeing the same level of disruption. 22. They think they are uniquely immune to the forces they are inflicting on their lowest paid staff. Total self-aggrandizing behavior. They're coping so hard, it's unbelievable.
Wait, it gets worse. This is the proof that they understand the capability but refuse to apply it internally to themselves. It's undeniable. When asked about specific functions, not titles, but tasks within the organization, 97% said procurement, and 93% said risk compliance and finance were being heavily disrupted. 97. 93. Only 77% said customer service was disrupted. You see the fundamental contradiction. You see it.
Oh my God, I love this data. Finance and risk compliance are generally more senior, highly analytical, specialized functions, the stuff VPs and directors do, than frontline customer service, obviously.
Yeah.
They literally don't know the difference between who they think they can replace, the frontline, and who they are actually replacing their own core functions. It's insane. They are admitting the functions that define senior management are going to be automated away, but they exclude the senior management title because of ego. For real. That's all I'm saying. The hypocrisy is staggering.
I knew it. The capability is proven, the financial incentive is massive, but the biggest immediate hurdle is that executives are the ones who decide who gets replaced, and they statistically consider their own jobs far harder to replicate than any other role in the company. It's self-preservation dressed up as strategic planning. This is major copium energy, right? The math is clear. The capabilities are there. We saw the LLM beat the executives in the simulation on core metrics. The only thing stopping the replacement of dozens of highly compensated senior VPs is the VP deciding to keep himself. Literally.
The only thing stopping it is the actual financial consequence of implementing a bespoke system that fails 95% of the time. The absolute legal necessity of human accountability dictated by SOX, and the reality that AI can't handle true unprecedented crisis management. You got destroyed on those points, and now you're coping with the ego argument. For real.
The capability will improve faster than the legal framework can adapt, you know what I mean? That's always how tech works. And while AI implementation is a boon for consulting firms in the short term, they're getting paid millions to consult other companies on AI transformation. It's a massive existential risk to the entire industry, because eventually companies will realize they can get those same vaguely reliable recommendations internally using enterprise LLMs. And when consulting gets vaporized, the highly paid executive layer responsible for strategy is right behind it. They are next. It's inevitable.
The human element of trust, accountability, and adaptive leadership will always keep the top decision makers human. Facts. You're completely misjudging institutional inertia and the value of, actual human judgment.
You got destroyed, and now you're coping. Literally. The numbers are clear.
The market will prove your economic model is flawed because the real-world application is messy and expensive. Facts. You'll see.
Anyway, comment who's right. Let us know.
Drop a like if you agree with me. Because he's clearly wrong.
Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't miss the next debate.
Share this. Let's see what the audience thinks. I bet they see the reality.
He's still wrong, but whatever. The numbers don't lie. Executives are too expensive not to replace.
The comments are going to roast you. For real. Get ready to pay for those failed bespoke systems. Facts.